Hello everyone, Ronan here, and today I'm bringing you a short list of action RPGs that I believe deserve a playthrough regardless of their age or system that they have been played on. First off, I'm going to start with, I don't generally use graphics as one of my main characteristics for a good game. What I generally go is gameplay and how smooth a game feels and plays. Before I start my list, I should make a note that I do use emulators for this video. And as much as I like to use emulators, I also buy a copy of the games that I do enjoy playing. With the amount of games that are being released today, and a lot of the games that are released are sometimes bad, and I don't agree with paying top dollar for a game that was not worth it. So playing with an emulator sometimes is a good way to get a feel for the game. But if you're going to play a game for an extended period of time, or if you're going to play it for the entirety of the game, that if you enjoy those games, support them so that hopefully in the future they will make more of the games you do enjoy. Every game on this list I've owned either a physical copy or digital copy at one point in my life. Some of them I still own, they're just in a storage box somewhere. The only exception to this is Dynasty Warriors 6. I did not own a copy, but Dynasty Warriors 8 would not work for me on Steam. One of the main reasons I use an emulator is for sometimes fast forward features. For games that I already know the story, I want to skip through it, or the save state features. Or even just to play an old game while I'm waiting for a raid to start. The first game on my list is Zelda 2 from Nintendo. It is 28 years old now, and this classic RPG is probably one of the first of its kind. I still remember playing it as a kid, and I spent a lot of hours on the Nintendo playing this. To me, it's probably the nostalgia talking because it's part of my childhood. But even playing with this game for just making the video, I played for about 3 hours and I just had fun. I just went around and played for a bit. What makes this game playable even today is just how simple the controls are and just how smooth the gameplay is. I mean, it's still a hard game to play. Don't get me wrong, it's almost like a very early Dark Souls version. I mean, you just have to watch, practice your timings, and practice your jump attacks. The leveling system is very basic, and this is what basically makes it like barely an action RPG. I kind of wish that the Zelda series would have continued along that path. To me, that would have made a better series. The second one on my list is Evil. Much like Zelda, it is a side-scroller RPG, and what's good about this one is the level system is more in-depth. You start off in the ocean as a fish, and you work your way up to mammals by going through amphibians and dinosaurs. Now that's pretty cool. I've always wanted to play a dinosaur in a game, and the whole RPG element is very fun. I played this game for a bit. I found though, like now, it could be my Xbox controller, but I was having some issues with controls. They weren't as smooth as I remembered them to be. But it's still a very good game, and if you guys end up playing this, you can actually become a human. But to do this, you'll probably have to read up on a guide to be able to do this. The third game on my list is Secret of Mana. Now, this game was probably the best for its time. I played Secret of Mana for, I can't even count the hours. I played for hours on end. This was on Super Nintendo, and it's still the best in the series in my opinion. Now, they had one which was called Final Fantasy Adventures, I believe, and they basically used the Final Fantasy name to try to market the action RPG type. What's good about this game is that you had 3 characters, and the AI was customizable to what you felt the character you'd like them to play more like, and it was a grid square where you could pick from defensive to offensive. You always had the same 8 weapons, which gave you a different style of gameplay, which were split amongst your 3 characters, and you could play with a friend by having a second controller hooked up. Now there's a game that was very similar to this, which is Secret of Evermore, but Secret of Mana is the better of the two, I feel. It has a better story. Now if you did like Secret of Mana, there is a game out there called Secret of Grindia. It is available for pre-order. You get instant beta access. I'm not sure when the game actually will release. It was nominated for a green light game, but I noticed that it's no longer on Steam. There is a link in the description below if you are interested in playing this game. It looks and feels a lot like Secret of Mana. The next one was from the arcades. The 4th entry on my list is Dungeons & Dragons Chronicles of Mystara. This game I spent at least $30 in quarters at the arcade in one sitting. This was the best arcade game at the time where arcades were actually really popular. I spent so much time and money in this game and it was awesome. It's a side-scroller RPG that you actually level, you get experience, you pick up money. I believe there was a shop at some point. I only played for about 30 minutes on the Steam version to make this video, but I'm going to go back and play. And on the Steam version, I won't have to put more quarters in, which is nice. And you can play online with some friends, which is very nice. It's a feature that co-op is always a big feature in RPG games. Everybody loves co-op. It always makes the game better with online play. Number 5, Parasite Eve. Now, I did some research and there are 3 games in this series. I have not played the 3rd one, and there's about like a 13-year gap in between them, I believe. Parasite Eve 1 is the best, in my opinion. It just had some just wicked graphics, like cinematic-wise, for the PlayStation era. This system is 3 generations old, and the cinematics in this game were awesome. Like, even today I see games that have worse cinematics than this. Now, the gameplay graphics are pixelated, but the gameplay is just smooth, and not very many games have the same gameplay feel that Parasite Eve did. This game had one of the first dark feeling or atmosphere to it that I actually did enjoy. And that the leveling system was just really well done to tie in the New Game Plus, and to be able to finish the game in its entirety, you probably will have to finish the game at least 2 to 3 times. The weapons are all fully customizable, so if you like, let's say, a machine gun, you can use that and turn it into a shotgun. Every weapon has strengths and weaknesses. My favorite was always the pistol with a shotgun mod, which basically made me shoot shotgun shells with a pistol. I mean, that was just pretty awesome. Parasite Eve 2 is still a decent game. Parasite Eve 2's differences are better gameplay graphics, hands down. Where it loses me is that they took away the great leveling system, and then they kept it BP, but it's almost like a currency. And the controls, they went from a really good, just, omnidirectional controlling, like in most RPGs, and turned it into a control type that you'd be familiar if you played Resident Evil games, where you push forward to actually move your character forward, and then it ties into having camera issues, which I find gets frustrating sometimes when you end up loading into a zone 2-3 times because of you're just in an awkward spot. Now, number 6 on my list is Diablo 2. Now, this game, I'm sure many of you have played hundreds of hours. It was just the best of its time, and As much as I appreciated Diablo 1 and I played lots of hours on that, and I still remember duping items quite a bit, Diablo 2 is just much more smooth, more depth, just better gameplay, more action, like just faster. You actually had skills, spells. Skill tree was something that brought to many games nowadays that people should thank Diablo 2 for, because without Diablo 2 we may not even have skill trees nowadays. It just revolutionized the RPG type, which was really fun. The story was great, the cinematics were amazing, and then they brought us Diablo 3, which was still a good game in my opinion. It just didn't have the same feel that Diablo 2 brought, and a lot of that could go with how many games are being released nowadays and the competition between games. So people don't play games for as long as they used to, because so many great games just keep coming out. So you play it, you finish it, you may play it again, and then the next game comes out, you go play that. So that could be a big difference with Diablo 3, but I feel that the darkness of Diablo 2 was more prevalent than in Diablo 3. Now I put in Dynasty Warriors. I have not played the entire series because some of them do get repetitive if you just play them all. It is a hack and slash, just run in and attack a whole bunch of enemies. The one I'm showing here is Dynasty Warriors 6. Now I'm not sure what the reviews were on this one. I was going to showcase Dynasty Warriors 8, but it would not play for me on Steam. Dynasty Warriors 8 has a great review if you go on the Steam store. The guy's got like 600 hours on his playthrough, which to me shows that he actually really loves this game, and it has a lot more features than what I'm used to. It is a really good game from what I've read, and they actually added a lot of like talent tree and skills. One thing I did not like about the one I'm showing, Dynasty Warriors 6, is it seemed that you could just infinitely do basic attacks. You did not have a combo, which most of the other Dynasty Warriors I've played, you would be limited at first to like 3-4 hit combo, which you'd have to kind of plan and actually, you know, engage your enemies properly. With this one, you just keep attacking and then that's it. I'm assuming that playing on a harder difficulty, it would level out the playing field maybe. I just feel that the 6th one is not a good representation of what I was trying to showcase. I've played a lot of Dynasty Warriors 2, 3, and 4, and those games were all great for their time. I would definitely give Dynasty Warriors a shot if you're looking for a good action RPG, because Dynasty Warriors, the great feel is that you're this warrior, and as you go through the ranks, you just get stronger, and you can just overcome just massive amounts of enemies, and it's just fun. Plus, some of them in the series offer co-op, which is even better. Any games that offer co-op is just great. Now, I have an honorable mention I wanted to put here, and depending on your system may affect how well the game runs for you. Now, I tried playing Fallout 3, and I really loved it when I played it when it released, but trying to play now, it just kept freezing. So I took it off my list. I'm just going to keep it as an honorable mention so that you guys can play it for yourselves if you haven't played it, or if you did enjoy it. But I found that right now, on my new system, it will not run properly. It will freeze. Well, for me, it froze in the supermarket non-stop. So I will leave it at that. So let's keep going with the list. Mass Effect 2 is a great game that gave you choices, or at least the illusion of choices, that would affect every game in the series. I'm bringing up Mass Effect 2 because the second one was better than the first one, since the AI in the first one was really terrible. For me, they kept dying, they didn't use the spells when you asked them to. It just made it really hard to play the game as a squad. Mass Effect 2, on the other hand, had a much better AI, enemy system that worked much better, the pace of the gameplay was just great, just perfect. The third one was still very good. It still had like almost the same feel as Mass Effect 2, but the ending, I guess, the story was just not as great as the second one was. The ending left a lot of people disappointed, and I just can't put that one as being better than the second one. I definitely played a lot more hours in Mass Effect 2 than I did in any of the other two in the series. Also, the Renegade system and Paragon system was a really good system that was implemented in previous games, but I just felt that in Mass Effect it gave your character a totally different feel, even in cinematics, and your reactions to certain questions and what your options were in certain situations. If you haven't played the Mass Effect series, I would definitely give it a shot, since it provides one of the best over-the-shoulder shooter with RPG elements that actually uses cover, which is something that I find that's really great, where you run from cover to cover just to be able to use your skills and flank the enemy. And the ability to use your squad mates and give them orders on the fly while just pausing the menu quickly was, I think, a really good addition. So it brings me to Skyrim. Skyrim was basically the game where you could do what you want, when you want, however you want. Giant open world that you can go through as a massive axe-wielding barbarian, just destroying everything, or you could be a sorcerer, which you could cast whatever spells you want and, you know, just demolish through destruction, or your alteration, conjure up some demons, which is really fun, or conjure up some weapons and fight that way. Be an assassin, an archer, anything you want to play, however you want to play. The game is basically like an MMO that you play by yourself, which is a shame that when they did release an MMO, you still played by yourself. I mean, they messed up with that, where you didn't need to play with a group, because if you played in a group, you had to repeat the quest for however many players you had in your group, because you could not complete it for the party. You had to complete the quest for an individual and then restart the quest and complete it for the next individual. The only thing that ruins my experience with Skyrim is that eventually you get super powerful, that no matter what you do, you just run right through the game, right through everything. Which, I mean, I guess in an RPG you always get super powerful, but when nothing can stop you, then it just becomes boring, so you might as well just restart. And one giant perk of this is on the Steam Workshop. There are so many mods that you can implement to your game, and it's just amazing. You can change your weapon, your lore, having some Lord of the Rings lore in this. It's just amazing. Plus even quests, like new beginnings, there's tons of them, so definitely check it out. And then it brings me to Borderlands 2. Borderlands 2 was just epic. This game was just, it's just so smooth. And I know that there's a trilogy out right now, but the second one was really where they ironed out all the flaws from the first one, made it just more action-packed, faster combat, and then the fact that it's a good shooter, and then they have those RPG elements in there, it just made it an awesome game. And the characters in the AI characters are just so funny, and the comments that they do, just from the psycho bandits to human characters or even robots in this game, it's just so funny. Like, you won't be able to like take it all in on your first playthrough. You'll have to play it through a few times to actually like hear all the comments and like make sense of what they say. Much like, what does it all mean? The double rainbow reference. How a bandit likes his coffee. It's just so funny. It brought in the best, I think, for me, the best character in an RPG or even a shooter, and that's Tiny Tina. Tiny Tina is just amazing, and she's just too funny. If you haven't played this, at least play it just to have an experience of who Tiny Tina is. She was just so popular that she got her own DLC. And between her, Mr. Torque, those two just stand out with Claptrap. Claptrap was my favorite until Tiny Tina came out. I mean, her DLC, I'll show the intro, and it's just amazing. The graphics are great, the leveling system, plus having the boss tokens and you can put and it carries over to all your characters. Now I deleted my game at some point, so I lost all of those, which I should have just kept the game there, which also prevents me from showing the DLC content for Tiny Tina because it's at level 30, which kind of sucks, but oh well.
Flame Rock Refuge, a far cry from...
Wait, didn't you just say the sorcerer messed up the town? Why would things be lovely?
Whoops. What I meant to say is, it's eternal night, and you hear spooky music, and the whole area kind of smells like butts and dead people.
Kind of smells like butts and dead people.
And now my last entry. For this entry, some of you may agree or disagree, doesn't matter. I really enjoyed this game. I have over 500 hours combined in between Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin. These games are amazing. I'm not a professional Dark Souls player. I don't speedrun. I haven't really tried. There's just so much in this game. The character customization is massive. Just the fact that you can fashion souls. Like, I'll show you in my character, I'm playing a giant iron soldier. And it's so fun. Like, it changes how you view the game depending on which armor you're wearing, which weapon you use, what speed you want to play at by using your weight class. You know, if you want to play a slow, heavy field, or you can do whatever you want. And with the stats and the limit of your levels, like, you can just go so high. Now, some people say that Dark Souls 1 is the best. I'll disagree, and leaving graphics alone. Well, no, I can't do that because there are some pros and cons to each. Dark Souls 1 had, in my opinion, better environment. By saying this, like, the dark areas were better, like more sinister feeling, like the whole lore of it was slightly better, like an entire drowned city. Even though Dark Souls 2 had better graphics, smoother graphics, the first one had just a better environment, better feel to it. I still remember playing Dark Souls 1. I don't have the footage because having played the second one, I can't go back because of the controls, I'm having issues. Plus, playing on the PC, it's kind of clunky. The biggest issue I have is dodging. In the second one, you can dodge omnidirectional. In the first one, you dodge only 4 directions, like while you're targeted to the enemy. This is where Dark Souls 1, I left it behind a bit, is because it's clunky. I did finish it, but there was an area where everything was just so dark, and I'll remember this area forever. Oh, you can see where the eyes of the skeletons, the giant skeletons, coming towards you when you were fairly close to them. And I don't know how I managed to get through that area because I spoke with a friend later on, and he said I was supposed to use some type of mask that would allow me to see, or at least see the path I was supposed to take. Well, it took me at least 24 hours to go through this area by putting prism stones on the ground and watching them roll to where I was supposed to go. And if I put a prism stone down and it just fell down a couple levels, I just did not go that way. It took me forever to learn that level, but it was rewarding. I like Dark Souls 2, and the Scholar of the First Sin did make some areas darker and the use of your torch slightly better. There was just not that feel of like that environment that was just amazing. Like, there's still great lore, and it's probably the best RPG ever to me. I should say at least at this time. And I will play whatever Dark Souls series they come out, they release. There is Bloodborne, which I have not played. I've heard great things, but I've also heard that just Dark Souls has more depth and more replayability. Bloodborne does not have the replayability that Dark Souls has. Now, I know it's a hard game to play, and if you don't have the patience or the time to learn how to play Dark Souls, then it is what it is. But if you want a rewarding game, a challenging game where you'll die a lot learning on how to do things, this game is definitely worth it. It challenges you as a gamer, and it just makes it feel worth it. It's always good to have a challenge that was hard. You know, you don't want to just go run through games that makes it boring. And then even now, after 500 hours, I still die. I still want to go through and try different methods. Like, you know, from a caster to ultra greatsword character, or like you could play naked and still manage the game if you were skilled enough. And that's the big thing, balance. That's where this game gets a lot of points for me. Balance. You can use almost any weapon you want and still be a viable build around it, because the weapon balance goes with the move sets, goes with, you know, your stats. There's no one or two weapons and then that's the end all. Where like if you play Lords of the Fallen, there's only one or two weapons, like, let's say 3 weapons, because either you're doing a faith build, an agility build, or a strength build. In Dark Souls, there's just so many weapon scaling, you know, making a mundane weapon. I know it's a lot to take in, and I'll let you read through guides if you decide to play this game. It's, in my opinion, one of the best games at this time, and it will remain a great game to play even in 10, 15, 20 years from now. I thank everyone for watching. Please leave me some feedback. This is my first video using my new microphone. I'm still trying to tweak around with it and seeing how to make my videos better. With Heaven's Word coming next Thursday, which that will be just awesome. I will be doing videos as soon as I can. I'm planning on playing as soon as the game comes out. I might even try to start a stream channel now that I have this microphone. Thank you for your support. I really appreciate the feedback that some of you have given me. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next video. If I have time before Heaven's Word, my next video will be my favorite tactical or strategy RPGs, which, just like this list, regardless of graphics, I'm going to go based on gameplay and what I think even now is still playable and fun to have a look at. Even if it's just looking at the roots of the type, it's always good to go back and see where it all began. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Hey guys, Ronan here. Thought I would put a video on my thoughts for the Warrior 3.0 without hard facts